Welcome to Vlogmas Day 9. Today we are going to be talking about something that can completely transform your destiny. We are talking about exposure and network. So whether it's through education, travel, or the community that you live in, the people and the places that you are exposed to can unlock opportunities that you never even imagined possible. So this is a powerful conversation. So I invite you to stay to the very end so that you can learn more. And guys, I am so proud of myself. This is actually supposed to be the 10th day of Vlogmas, but yesterday I was shooting the video and I was like, hey, welcome to Vlogmas Day 10. So that's why I'm doing Vlogmas Day 9, but technically it's gonna be on the 10th of December. So if you haven't watched the rest of the videos I have done on this series, please do yourself a favor and go and watch them. They are so interesting videos. I'm shooting videos every day of December until December 24th, which is just the eve of Christmas. So let's dive right in. We're talking about exposure and network. So one thing when it comes to exposure is that it just changes how we think, it changes how we dream, and you will not even just like underrate it, because when you talk about exposure, we are talking about what you have access to or what you get exposed to, like in the right, like in the exact meaning of that word. So think about somebody like, I don't know if all of us are believers who are watching me, but there is a story of Joseph who was sold by his brothers. And of course, you can read the rest of that story, how it ended in the book of Genesis. But he was taken from what was familiar to him. The shepherd boy was sold as a slave by his own brothers. But as days went by, years went by, the guy found himself in Pharaoh's palace. And just through this exposure to Pharaoh's palace, eventually Joseph became a prime minister. So sometimes not even sometimes, always being in the right environment can just awaken potential that you didn't even know that was within you. And it positions you for greatness. So imagine somebody like Joseph, if he didn't leave his like native home in Israel, he wouldn't even have imagined that he can make it as a king. So sometimes that's how getting out of your comfort zone can make a difference for you. So just like the example I've used, the power of exposure is that it just awakens the potential within you that you didn't even know existed. And your story for exposure doesn't have to be like this, it doesn't have to be tragic like this. Fortunately, and especially what I talk most about here on this channel is things like travel. So through things like travel, where you live, and all that can still give you this level of greatness and potential that Joseph got without having to be like a slave, okay? Let's talk about the importance of education when it comes to exposure. So one of the best gifts that you could ever give your child is exposure through education. And for me, that is something I am so big on. Those who've been on the channel long enough, you know, that's why I actually have one child, because I always wanted that I can be able to be in a position to give my child like the best kind of education, the best kind of exposure. You've seen us go on different trips around the world together. And this one is very important, especially when it comes to selecting schools. I know I'm shooting this video in December, and come next year, a lot of students are going to be transitioning from primary school to high school and from high school to university. So my dear parents, if you can afford it, most of these high-end schools, especially I'm talking about the ones in Kenya, I don't know about other countries, but in Kenya, for example, you'll find most of the high-end schools often have a richer curriculum comparatively like to the 844 or to these other government schools, and with a very strong focus on extracurricular activities like sports, music, debate, arts, and so on and so forth. And these activities, they aren't just extras like in the word extracurriculum, but they help your child to build confidence. They help your child to learn about teamwork. They build leadership skills in your child. And these soft skills are the ones that are going to set your kid apart in the future, because Everybody can get A's, but confidence is built over time. All this teamwork and all these other skills are built over time. But also, it's not just about your child getting exposed to all these things. Remember, especially like in high school, this is the period whereby your child is making friendships, is making friends. And depending on where you, so if you take your child where everyone is relatively poorer than you, then your child can only grow downwards. But if, let's say, you take your child to a place where a good majority of the other kids are richer than him or her, then it gives your child exposure to get friends that can lift him up, higher up on the ladder. But, and this is not just for your child only, you as a parent, you also benefit because you get to interact with other parents who are often well connected, richer than you, wealthier than you. So these networks can open doors for you in terms of partnerships, business opportunities, or even just mentorship. And who you know can truly shape your destiny. So even when you find yourself in those forums, if now you've already taken your kid to those high-end schools and all these places, take it upon yourself to be active. Like, does the school or your child's class have a WhatsApp group? Be visible, take space. When meetings are called for PTA, attend them, ask questions, make comments. When your child has an event at the school, attend them, cheer them up, let people know you, let you be a known quantity in the school. Find out who are their friends, encourage your child to join different clubs, to be in different leadership positions, because by the virtue of your child being in those leadership positions, he's going to get known, he's going to get popular, other kids are going to like him. Encourage your kids to come and visit, your kids' friends to come and visit your home, because you will find, again, especially most of those high-end schools, where, like, say, if the kid has to come and visit their friend, normally they would not use public transport. They're going to be using private means, and sometimes their parents are going to drop them off. And this is an opportunity for you to meet their parents and to build your networks as well. So that's a second way. Like I said, you don't have to be like Joseph, where you have to go into slavery to build these networks. You can actually choose how you build them. Now let's talk about the value of travel and exposure. So travel is another powerful way that you can gain exposure. So when you see how people live, other people different than you, how they work, and how they go about their businesses. When you visit other parts of the world, it expands your mindset. It also shows you what is possible in this world. And it gives you new ideas and perspectives that will help you, not even just in your own personal life. They can help you in your career. They can help you in your business. In fact, many jobs and business opportunities come simply because someone sees the unique value that you bring from your experiences, including outside of your own home country. Even when you find yourself in a place where you have to like articulate yourself or explain a certain viewpoint, just by virtue of you having been exposed to multiple ways of thinking, different ways of working with people from different places outside of your hometown or your home country, already puts you at an advantage than somebody who has just zero grades in their own country or in their own in their own country, or even just in their hometown. So I remember, for example, when I started my career, I first started off in Afghanistan, and then I moved from, just by virtue that I went to Afghanistan, it now became easier for me to go to Haiti, and I started building my networks. So the people I met when I was in Haiti, I was able to move to Myanmar, I was able to move to Pakistan, Zimbabwe, Kenya, and all these other countries where I have worked, because I just kept building my networks and building my networks and building and building and building on top of the people I already knew, and somebody who I knew introduced me to somebody else who knew me, and like that, and so on and so forth. So that's the power of travel. It gets to connect you to opportunities that you otherwise would not have been able to be exposed to if you hadn't traveled. Now let's talk about how your community can help your destiny in terms of exposure. So where you live, very, very important. Like, your neighborhood really matters. And guys, do not underestimate this thing. Like, for me, I always tell people I would rather, like, if I couldn't afford to live where I live right now, I am so grateful to God. I can't underestimate the blessing of being able to live in the neighborhood that I live in. But one thing I know for sure, even if I wasn't able to afford to live in this neighborhood, I would rather, like in my own house, I would rather go and get an SQ in a similar neighborhood than to move to a bigger house in a neighborhood that wasn't an upmarket one. Because when it comes to living in an upmarket area, it doesn't just mean like better security, better amenities like fresh Kanjo water, no unnecessary blackout, but it's about the people that you are surrounded by. Like even people's mindsets are so different. Like I've been living in this area for like 17 years. I don't ever remember hearing even house girls fighting over hanging lines or kids fighting over, the most mundane things that I have seen in other estates. And no disrespect, but it's just the reality. So even the kind of neighbors you're going to have, because by virtue of you just living in an area where the rent is slightly higher, that it means even the people that your neighbors have a slightly higher disposable income. So they are more wealthier, probably. They are more, like the networks are more valuable than if, let's say, you were in a place where people are basically struggling and they have like very little disposable income. So like I've said, being in the right neighborhood, those upmarket neighborhood, you're going to be exposed to people who have access to like significantly more resources than the average person. They have access to more information and, of course, networks that can accelerate your own personal progress. So, like I already said, if a whole house is out of reach for you, don't let that stop you. Personally, I wouldn't let it stop me. Get a servant quarter in that neighborhood that you want to be in. And it's just one way for me of just telling God or whoever divine being that you believe in that I'm so serious. I want to make this neighborhood, make it happen for me. So just being in that environment alone is going to expose you to conversations and connections, and that can lead to your destiny helpers. Yeah. So like I've said, remember Joseph, he didn't start as Pharaoh's equal. He started as a servant in the palace. So how do you plan to take action today? First, you can start by investing in your child's education if God has blessed you with any and you're still at that stage where you can make this decision. And, there are extracurricular activities as well. Clubs are very important. And make sure that instead of your child just staying at home, they get exposed, they go to the different clubs. Like right now, as I'm shooting this video, my son is in Dar es Salaam. He plays basketball with the Vikapu group, and they went for a tournament. They're going to be away for the whole week. That is, of course, just a new stamp on his passport and just the exposure of the Kiswahili of, of Dar es Salaam and just the people, the culture there for a whole week. I'm sure he's going to come back a changed person. Secondly, prioritize travel, even if it's to nearby counties or nearby cities or nearby countries. Start with those countries for which your passport doesn't require a visa. It's just easier, it's cheaper. Third, aim to live in communities that inspire and challenge you. They're going to make you work harder. Like for me, when I think that I have to pay so much rent, even the days when I just get exhausted and I want to quit my job, I'm like, no, let me just push on for one more month so I can be able to afford my rent. So it's just going to make you work harder. And lastly, be intentional about building and nurturing your network. It could be the key to your next big break. So exposure and networks have the power to shape your destiny. Don't underestimate the environments you place yourself and your family in, and especially your kids. And just like Joseph of the Bible, remember the right exposure and connections can make a difference with your journey that maybe started small, started in an unfair way, but with the right exposure and connections, the possibility are just endless, So if this message resonates with you, remember to like the video. It is free. It helps to make sure the algorithm send the video to a lot more people, because it's like, okay, there's a lot of interesting things happening here on Travel with Ivan Tali. And make sure you share this video. You never know who you might help. And make sure that you subscribe for more content. Let's make 2025 the year of leveling up through exposure. I will see you on the next one, which is Vlogmas Day 11. Bye, guys.